I just stopped at my local smoke shop to get a bottle of water. And I realized how weird that sounds, which is why I'm making a video about it. I've got a local smoke shop just across the street from where I work, where I buy my cigars after work. Frequently, I'll enjoy a good cigar after a long day of work, especially after some great accomplishment. And I know the family that owns it. It's a small family-run business. These guys own a couple of different shops throughout the state of Utah. These guys have a couple rental properties. They are by no means big business or super wealthy. These are just honest people doing their thing, feeding their family with a couple small businesses. But what makes it weird that I stopped in to buy a bottle of water there is that directly next door to their smoke shop is a Smith's, which in Utah, that's our version of Kroger. In Arizona, you got like a Fry's. In other states, you've got other names, but they're all owned by Kroger and disguised to be localized stores. Right next to the smoke shop is a proper grocery store where I could have went in and bought a bottle of water, but I didn't. And I think the reason for that is actually really interesting. The past few times I've been in to buy cigars at this small family-owned smoke shop, I noticed, dude, they've got the big bottles of Arrowhead water and they sell it for $1. When I go into the grocery store just next door, that same bottle of water is costing me between $3 and $4. And I guarantee you that Kroger is able to get better prices and is able to buy in bulk better than the small family-run smoke shop. Yet they're charging 4 times the price for a bottle of water of this small family-run smoke shop. And that blew my mind. Because how often in America now are we overpaying on something because somebody in a suit, some executive of a publicly traded company or a corporate conglomerate that's privately owned and is anti-competitive, they're just setting prices so high because they know that they don't have meaningful competition. So you know what I did? I went next door. I went to the smoke shop to buy my bottle of water because I was thirsty. I was thirsty running some errands for work, and I said I'd rather stop into the smoke shop and get ID'd for a $1 bottle of water than go into this big Kroger store, walk to the back of the store, find a bottle of water, have to do self-checkout. The people there are grumpy. They don't even want to be there. I went to the smoke shop. Saw the boys. They were very kind. It was a great experience. I love the small family-run smoke shop. But I think this is part of a bigger problem in America. When I go to Trader Joe's versus my local Kroger, it's often apparent to me just how much they're upmarking or charging just to get extra profit at our local Kroger store. I can do the same grocery haul at Trader Joe's and pay $70, whereas if I'd gone to the Kroger store, I'm paying $160 plus. I'm usually paying just over double. It's actually nuts for this exact same stuff too. There's no reason for it other than they want to increase their profit margins. And people have talked about the enshittification of so much of America. But I think when we're talking about groceries especially, this is especially a sensitive topic, man. And I think a lot of times with Gen Z, we're so burnt out, man. We've got so much going on that we don't stop to really think about, yeah, well, I don't want to go shopping at this store that's, a major publicly traded company because they're going to charge me a 30% premium or 50% premium on everything. Sometimes we don't even think that way. By the way, I think the premiums are more that we're paying with Kroger stores, but I digress. A lot of times we're not even thinking like that. We're just thinking, this is the grocery store. This is where I go. But this is where I want to say something radical and a little bit crazy. I think we need to start bankrupting stores like Kroger. Look, some of you guys live in areas where, a Kroger-owned store, whatever that localized version of it looks like, that might be the only store in your area. For where my parents live, that's the case. But for some of you guys that have options, we need to start supporting good businesses that are not gouging us with these insane profit margins for no reason. Again, I want to use the example of Trader Joe's. If I go there and can buy the same things at half the price, why would I not do that, right? But Kroger's got this big name, so everybody just goes to this store. But if they can get it at half the cost to me as a consumer, that means they're still churning a profit at Trader Joe's, even though they're charging me half of what Kroger would cost. So why is Kroger charging such an abrasive, over-the-top, greedy, absorbent amount? And I think the reason for that is with publicly traded companies, especially in America, there's an incentive structure devised to make CEOs just constantly short-term profit max. CEOs are worried constantly that they're not going to be able to stay in power if each quarter they're not increasing profitability. And if I'm not mistaken, there's also legislation in the United States that if as a CEO or as the leader of an organization that's publicly traded, you don't increase profitability when you know you have a clear path to do so, I think you can get sued for not increasing profitability. I'm pretty sure it's referred to as fiduciary responsibility or something along those lines. Honestly, there are a lot of you guys that are smarter than me in the comment section. Maybe you guys can correct me on that. Give me some context. But I look at that and I say, Man, these publicly traded companies, these big corporate models that say, hey, we're going to go into every town in America with all of the shareholder money from the investor class, and we're going to buy up all of your local grocery stores, keep them the same names as what your local store used to be known as, so you don't even know it got bought up, and we're just going to jack up prices. We got to do something about that, guys. We can't tolerate that. That's not good for the consumer, and that's really the problem, is that America's legislative bodies, Congress, even the presidency, have been bought out on behalf of big business, serving the investor class, the business class, the owner class, rather than the working class. There's no reason that groceries should have that kind of markup. If Trader Joe's can get my groceries to me at half the price of a Kroger store, then you just know their markups are nuts at Kroger, because Trader Joe's also has their own markups. And this is not an ad for Trader Joe's, I'm just saying, in this economy, I got to figure out where to cut costs where I can. And it's buying the bottle of water from the local smoke shop. It's buying my groceries more at Trader Joe's, I also saw a video talking about Kroger specifically, how they have more data on American citizens than a lot of federal agencies. I think they have something like 21 petabytes of data that they collect every time you're using your rewards number, every time you have the app, they're tracking your geolocation data so that they can understand the shopping patterns of different social classes and where they can increase prices for different social classes. And so they can start to, okay, we've got the richer people shopping on Tuesdays. So on Tuesdays, we're going to mark up those blueberries $2 a piece. And then we got the people that are a little bit more price sensitive coming on, Saturday or whatever, maybe we lower it $1.50. I was just talking to somebody actually who went to a Kroger store who was talking about how from last week to this week, they increased the price of blueberries by an entire $1. And then they ran a 50-cent sale and made it a big deal about save 50 cents on blueberries. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, people see right through this. But that's what I fear, is that not enough people see through it to actually bring a stop to this system. And so again, I think this is where it's incumbent upon us as people who get to vote with our dollars to bankrupt corporations like Kroger. You guys want to get crazy markups like that and screw over your consumer? All right, not spending another dime with Kroger. That's what we got to do. You want to collect all this data on us so that you can manipulate us rather than keeping it fair, rather than keeping it reasonable, and rather than keeping your profit margins, at a steady rate on each item. But instead, you want to find out where you can charge a little bit more. Maybe the people with more income are buying the organic, so we're just going to jack up the organic costs. All right, let's put you out of business then. That's where it's incumbent upon us to pay with our dollars, because this is happening in different aspects of the economy. And I said pay with our dollars, but I'm saying vote with our dollars rather. And we're often taught that voting in the United States is an illusion of choice, especially when you look at the presidency, and maybe it is at that level. But when you're talking about shady companies that are just big companies like this, doing unscrupulous things that screw you over, trust me, if enough of us vote with our dollars and our feet and go to other stores, we can bankrupt these guys quick. We can bankrupt them. We can do it. This is where we can affect change. We might not be able to get the president in who's actually going to do what he says he's going to do. We're looking at Trump and everything he said he was going to do, he's doing the opposite. That's a whole other discussion. I digress. But what can we do with these unscrupulous companies to make them pay when they make decisions that are anti-consumer? This is just something that's been on my mind nonstop for the last few weeks. And I think in America, we also have an issue where, a 12% profit margin is not considered good. A 25% profit margin is not considered good. You talk to a lot of business owners and it's like, how can I get a triple digit profit margin? How can I get over 50%? And I look at the small mom and pop smoke shop. They're not getting bundled deals on these Arrowhead waters. I mean, maybe they're buying a case of 24. They're not getting these bulk deals like Kroger, but they'll still sell it to me for $1. You know why? Because maybe they can make 12% off of it. And so that's the argument that I'm making here, guys. We need to vote with our dollars and our feet and support the small family-run businesses that are actually going to give us the good deals, that are actually going to treat us well as consumers. These big corporations don't care. And it's not just publicly traded, although that's a huge aspect of it. Publicly traded means enshittification, 100%. But also you have private equity that'll come in and just buy up broad swaths of a sector, get rid of any competition, and that's when they can start jacking up prices. So anytime we see one of these small businesses pop up, we got to support it, man. Competition is what makes capitalism work. And we keep forgetting that. Our government, especially the Trump administration, seems to think that competition is an optional aspect of capitalism. We can just keep giving money and keep giving all of these advantages to big business. No. When you get rid of competition in capitalism, that's where you start to get cronyism and it starts to become predatory. So it's upon us. We got to vote with our dollars. We got to vote with our feet. Anyways, just some thoughts I've been having this week. My name is Mitchell. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you guys and have a good one.